Serious, what is the scariest, most bone-chilling moment you have ever witnessed, or have been told in your life? My father is a physician, has been in practice for 30 years, and has literally seen tens of thousands of patients. One day a few years back he goes to see a woman who has been admitted to the hospital the previous day for a serious lung condition. He enters a hospital room in the morning, the woman is heavily sedated and there is a nurse fixing her bed and cleaning the room. Immediately upon entering, my father gets a severe allergic reaction, feels he can barely breathe and tears start rolling from his eyes. The nurse stands and helps him back into the hallway. After dad finally recovers and apologizes to the nurse, says that's so weird, that only happens when I get close to cats. The nurse goes white as a ghost. It turns out that the hospitalized woman had been awake all night, screaming that cats were crawling all over her body and trying to scratch out her eyes. The hospital staff believed she was simply having a weird reaction to some medication, and after hours of her terrified screaming they were able to medicate her to sleep. There is probably a logical explanation for the whole situation, but I remember finding the account bone-chilling when I first heard the story when I was around 8. I got on a roller coaster at Six Flags in Houston. It had those foam-covered bars that locked over your shoulders and a small seat to sit on, but the feet dangled about a minute into the ride. It starts twisting. I slip halfway out of the seat and almost out of the seat belt. That was supposed to be checked for security beforehand, but wasn't tight enough. I spent the entire ride digging my little nails into the foam padding on the shoulder bars while the edge of the seat was digging into my back. My mom was sitting next to me and noticed what was happening. All she could reach was my shirt and held onto that for the ride. I haven't been on a coaster since. Not entirely the same, but similar from the other car's perspective. We were dumb high school kids, if I repeat myself. We're riding in our friend Kyle's new to him car that he'd just gotten that weekend. We see our other friend Chris heading back from dropping off his girlfriend. It's probably about 11 PM and the roads are largely empty, so we start following him, because why not? We're aware he has no idea who we are because he didn't recognize the car. At one intersection he gets in the left turn lane even though he needed to go straight to get home. So we get in the left turn lane. The light turns green and he goes straight, so we go straight. He was checking to see if we were actually following him, or if we had just been heading the same general direction. He heads to his mom's house. About a block from his mom's house there's a fork in the road. He needs to head left to get to his mom's. He takes the right and floors it. We're flying around residential roads at about 65 or so. We get on this one road, which is fairly common road in our town. It's where the cops like to sit and pick up speeders. It was 25 miles per hour. It also had a few hills. He didn't slow down, so we didn't really slow down, but he's about 14 miles ahead of us. We can see him cresting hill further down the road. We realize he's heading to his dad's house, so we head to his dad's house. His dad was pretty cool and always had an attitude of my house is open, just come in. We get to his dad's house just a few seconds after him, and walk in. His dad sees us and starts laughing. Apparently Chris had sprinted in and said people were after him. Looking back there are so many ways that could have gone wrong. A speeding ticket, least bad thing that could have happened, a bad traffic accident, or even his dad waiting for us with a weapon. I don't think he had a gun, but I'm not sure. I'm sure for Chris he was scared to death. And it was really a horrible thing we did. My dad used to say that when groups of kids got together, the group intelligence was lower than the lowest individual IQ. They don't get smarter, they get dumber. I think this was a great illustration of that. Creepiest moment? Patrolling an empty warehouse and my radio goes off and it's like a sort of demonic gibberish, and the lights shut off, and I remember thinking, oh fuck no, I ain't being in a horror movie tonight. Beelined it for the door. Would had to leave anyways to use my phone to call in the power outage. Later figured it was probably an electrical issue of some sort, causing radio interference and a power outage. Worked alone during those hours, so not a prank from someone else. I received a call in a call center and it sounded like a heavily distorted scream. Then dialed tone. This was during the night shift. I don't believe in anything supernatural, but damn if that wasn't creepy. I was cornered and surrounded by 4 up to no good youths in an empty train at night. Their eyes told of drug use, and not the hippie kind. They sized me up while their leader made small talk about the book, some philosophy of science if I recall correctly, I was reading. After I had explained the basic concept, he asked me to read from the back page. I kept my composure and complied, treating them as interested students. Apparently that act spared me from whatever they could possibly have done, which I was told as they left me. Nothing happened. I have been hit on before, unprovoked, and have been in some tight places, even had knives pulled on me a couple of times, but the sheer uncertainty of not knowing their intentions and what could have happened makes it one of the scariest situations of my life. No way I could have taken on 4 drugged up psychos and gotten away unscathed. Keeping cool and treating them with an air of respect saved me, but I was just on autopilot, buying time while biding it. No one would probably see this, but I don't want it anymore. I've had night terrors since I was a toddler, still do today, and I'm 42. Very long story short, I heard voices a lot at night. They escalated to hallucinations. A woman would stand in my room with a straight horrid smile and chant incoherent stuff non-stop. Sometimes she'd jump on me and startle me out of bed. Other times she'd claw at and bite my face. Sadly, she looked just like my mother, who was the sweetest woman in the world. Anyway, as I got older, she'd appear in every room I was in, usually in the darkest corner. It was all in my head. I knew that. I lived with it. I'm damaged goods. No one but my parents knew because embarrassment. Sometimes I'd hear my mother calling me from another room. I'd go there and evil bitch would jump out at me. Sometimes I passed out. I got in trouble a lot for not answering my mum. I was visiting my aunt in hospital a couple of weeks ago. She had a friend visiting with her holding her hand. I greeted them and we talked for a while. Evil bitch hallucination was there in the corner, chanting away. My aunt's friend looks directly at it, tells it to shut its mouth, then chases it out. What she actually said was "Sakabuzik WLI Kalba" or "Shut your face you bitch." She saw my fucking hallucination, told it to shut the fuck up, and chased it away. I was totally dumbstruck. My aunt's friend said she saw it as a child too. Described it to a T. Now I'm not sure if it's really just in my head. FML. Edit. Yes, it's very possible I'm bipolar etc. I was on SSRIs and Epilim and I couldn't tell whether the hallucinations were still there and I just didn't care because drugs, or whether the meds were working. I stopped taking them. I've done this for a neighbor, some multi-tour vet who had seen way too many friends killed and was haunted by it. One night he was screaming really loudly about it, and no one was able to talk him down at all. I went outside and I could tell he was seeing people in the chairs set up around the porch, so I attacked them, kicking and punching where a person would be, and screamed "Get the fuck out of here," and threw the chairs off the porch. Shed porch. My chairs, I didn't care. He sat and cried for about half an hour and was totally calm. Thanked me and went inside to sleep. I know in psychiatry you're supposed to never acknowledge someone's delusion as being real, but I think some people really need that. I had a bad trip on acid. They don't lie when they tell you it massively fucks up your worldview. I had never been a religious person, and I hadn't really come to terms with my own mortality. Those anxious feelings were amplified in an existential crisis that lasted about an hour. The trip started out okay. I was with my fiance and our 2 friends, and we had just come in from taking a long walk through the forest. My fiance and one of our friends wanted to go back out, but I elected to stay in with our other friend because it was pea cold out and wet. We both suffer from omnipresent pain and muscle tension, and he's into natural remedies and massage therapy and such. So we start smoking weed to chill a little. We stretch a little. He gets out some essential oils for some aromatherapy. Somewhere in the middle of this, I catch myself in a trance and start losing my shit. I was basically caught in a loop, but I had no idea what that was, and I had never experienced it, but I had done acid before. I couldn't shake it either. He tried putting on music, turning on the TV, trying to talk me down, but nothing worked. I had no perception of time passing, and I kept feeling like I was falling over into sleep. Then something would jolt me back awake. The looping sensation came from me being essentially stuck in this moment in time, and that moment would restart every time I was jolted awake. It was a morbid and helpless sense of deja vu that causes me to entirely lose touch with reality. It didn't help that my friend was also caught in this loop, although he was a lot more calm about it because he knew what was going on, and he was also just a super chill person anyways. But me, I was screaming. I was terrified that I was dying. I was convinced that I was stuck in this moment because I had entered a coma. I was going brain dead, entering a vegetative state, and my brain was literally not able to process or perceive anything outside of that moment or that room. I was so worried that I wouldn't see my family or my fiance ever again. I was so scared that I had massively fucked myself up and caused tragedy for everyone. I was desperate to break out of that room and jump out of a window or something to prove to myself that I was alive. But I was also scared of hurting myself if it was real. So there was a lot of running around my apartment and yelling the words self-preservation like an absolute madman. I didn't calm down until my fiance came home, and even he didn't know what to do. All he could do was hold me and reaffirm that I was here, I was home, and that yes, the clock was moving and time was indeed passing by, and I'm still alive. I calmed down within a half hour after that, but the rest of the trip was ridden with paranoia. I lost both of those friends that night. I had freaked everyone out pretty badly, and it also threw me on an existential bender for a while. I had much more anxiety about my own mortality and the meaning of life itself, and I became chronically depressed and suicidal for months after that. It didn't help that I had a history of depression. Now I've come to terms with it, and honestly I've got an even better grip on things than I ever could have thought possible. I can only attribute my current state of mind to that event, but man, I can't imagine anything being more terrifying. I'm sure that if my friend came across this thread, he would also cite this incident as his answer. Edit, added a word.